Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 20th verse of the 12th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Esha data sharanyascha yatha hi aushinarashibihi yasho vitanita swanam daushyantir iva yajvanam. The meaning of this verse is, this child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered, like the famous King Shibi of the Ushinara country. And he will expand the name and fame of his family, like Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta. So two comparisons are made. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, a king becomes famous by his acts of charity, performances of yajnas, protection of the surrendered, etc. So three different aspects are specifically mentioned about Parikshit Maharaj when he grows up to be the king, emperor. He will be famous for his acts of charity. A king, if he is qualified, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, he should have the qualifications after having been trained and after having assimilated the knowledge, the skill, the proper understanding, and such a king is able to rule the people, the whole kingdom, in such a way that people will be happy when the king is ruling, and at the end people will be able to get liberation from material bondage. That is the responsibility of a ruler. Not only he should ensure that people are happy and there is peace and there are no miscreants disturbing saintly persons or weaker sections of society. At the same time, he has to also engage the people in acts of sacrifice so that they are ultimately liberated from material bondage. Otherwise, if there is no such endeavor for engaging in spiritual activities, then people simply continue the cycle of birth and death and continue to suffer life after life after life after life after life. So it's the king's responsibility as the representative of the Supreme Lord. So here it is said by Srila Prabhupada, three specific qualifications of an ideal king. He should be well trained to perform acts of charity, dana. He should perform yajna. He should himself perform yajna for the welfare of the whole kingdom, and he should engage others in performing yajna according to their position, according to their duty, as enjoined in the scriptures and as taught by the Supreme Lord and his representatives, the bona fide spiritual masters. And the king should also give protection to the surrendered souls. This is also a king's duty, responsibility. It's one of his qualifications. Now, Srila Prabhupada particularly says here, a Kshatriya king is proud to give protection to the surrendered souls. And this is specifically mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. This attitude of a king is called Ishvara Bhava. Ishvara Bhava, this is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter. So, Ishvara Bhava means factual power to give protection in a righteous cause. When the citizens are upright in their behavior, in their conduct, then there should be protection by the king to such righteous people for a righteous cause. They should not be overpowered by miscreants, by demons, by materialists, by all kinds of ruffians. No. Then the king is not a capable person, neither he is doing his duty, nor he is going to help the people in ultimately attaining liberation. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord instructs living beings to surrender unto Him, and the Lord promises all protection. The Lord is all powerful and true to His word, and therefore He never fails to give protection to His different devotees. The Lord never fails to give protection to His different devotees. He says, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. My devotee is never going to be vanquished, because I will always protect my devotee in all circumstances. So, Srila Prabhupada particularly points out here, the king being the representative of the Lord, he must possess this attitude of giving protection to the surrendered souls at all risk. The king must give protection to the surrendered souls at all risk. And this was very nicely demonstrated by one former king, Maharaj Shibi. He is famous for giving protection to the surrendered. So that particular instance from the scriptures is narrated by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. Maharaj Shibi was the king of Ushinara, a particular province, and Maharaj Shibi was the intimate friend of Maharaj Yayati. Yayati was a famous king in former times, same time. And Maharaj Yayati was able to reach the heavenly planets along with Maharaj Shibi. So the scriptures describe how in the Mahabharata it is mentioned that Maharaj Shibi was aware of the heavenly planet where he was to be transferred after his death. And the description of this heavenly planet where Maharaj Shibi transferred himself is described in the Mahabharata, Adi Parva, 96th chapter, verses 6 to 9. And it is particularly mentioned in the Mahabharata that Maharaj Shibi was so charitably disposed, because the scriptures say king should be charitable. He should be famous for acts of charity, dana. So Maharaj Shibi was very famous for giving charity, that he wanted to give over his acquired position in heavenly kingdom to Yayati. He was so charitably disposed. But Yayati did not accept this charity by Shibi. So this Shibi, he became a very famous king as a protector of surrendered souls and as a donor of charities. So it is said here that the king of heaven, Indra, once took the shape of a pigeon hunter bird, an eagle. Indra took the form of an eagle. And Agni, the fire god, took the shape of a pigeon. So eagle and pigeon, actually they are disguised. Indra is disguised as eagle and Agni is disguised as pigeon. The pigeon, while being chased by the eagle, took the shelter of the lap of Maharaj Shibi. The pigeon came and landed on Shibi's lap. And the hunter eagle wanted the pigeon back from the king. So King Shibi, since this pigeon had taken shelter of King Shibi, the king did not want that eagle to take away this pigeon, kill it and eat the flesh. So the king wanted to give some other meat to eat for the eagle. And he requested that eagle, please don't kill this pigeon, because it has taken shelter of me. I should be giving it protection, so don't kill this pigeon. You want some flesh, I'll give you some other flesh. Now this hunter bird, the eagle, refused to accept the king's offer. The eagle refused to accept this offer by King Shibi. And later on it was settled that the eagle would accept flesh from the body of the king, and it would accept flesh from the body of the king equivalent to the weight of the pigeon. So the king agreed for that. Okay, you want my flesh, I'll give you, but don't kill this pigeon. So he was so generous in giving charity. But now listen what happened. The king began to cut flesh from his body to give a weight of his own flesh equivalent to the pigeon's weight. So there was a balance, and one side the pigeon was kept in the balance, other side Shibi's flesh was being put in the balance to match the weight of the flesh that was to be given to this eagle, the hunter bird. But what happened when this weighing was going on? The mystic pigeon always remained heavier how much ever Shibi was cutting his flesh and putting in the balance, in the pan of the balance. So then what did Shibi do? How much will I cut? I myself will sit on the pan. I'll offer my entire body. I'll offer my entire body, because any amount of flesh I am cutting off and putting, it doesn't seem to be balancing the weight of the pigeon. So when he put himself on the balance to equate with the pigeon, the devatas were pleased with him. So charitable. Sacrificed his own life even for the sake of saving the pigeon which has surrendered to him. So protector of the surrendered. So then Indra and Agni disclosed their identity, and the king Shibi was blessed by them. Devarshi Narada also glorified Maharaj Shibi for his great achievements in specifically giving charity and protection to the surrendered. It is also said this Maharaj Shibi sacrificed his own son for the satisfaction of human beings in his kingdom. So that's another story in the scriptures. So in this way, Shibi was very famous for giving charity and sacrificing his personal interest for the sake of giving protection to somebody else who is a surrendered soul. So therefore, it is said here, this child Parikshit would be as generous in giving charity and as perfect in giving protection to surrendered souls like Shibi. So he was to become a second Shibi in charity and protection. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.